Welcome to sublesson 7.2, where we'll manage Syslog in order to manage our log files on our system. Syslog is a unified approach to capturing system log files, written originally by Eric Allman out of Berkeley. In Syslog, logs are captured and sorted by two categories: the facility, which is kind of the source, and the severity, the importance of a given log message. The Syslog ecosystem is composed of the Syslog-D daemon, that's the running daemon that handles the actual logs, the open log library, which is what is used to send messages to the Syslog daemon, and the logger tool, which is a command line interface where you can, as the administrator, test and use logging directly from the command line. Any Syslog-aware program uses these open log library routines to send messages. So for instance, we were looking at var log messages and we saw the yum packages being updated and other information there. Those must have used the open log libraries to write the messages to Syslog. The Syslog daemon running in the background reads the messages sent to it from clients and writes them to whatever the configured destination is. The Syslog-D original daemon is a little bit dated at this point and has now been replaced by a number of new tools. rsyslog is one very common tool on our CentOS system. That's the one that we'll look at. There are a number of others, including Syslog-NG, which you'll see on some other systems. In any case, a lot of the same concepts remain, but there's some just extensions in place. So what's a facility exactly? It has a number, just a numeric identifier, and then a keyword to identify what the source was, and then a description. So for instance, the kern facility is a kernel message. The user facility is a user level message. We'll see some examples of this. There's also the severity. So an emergency would mean a very critical emergency system event. That's severity level 0. The system's basically unusable. There might be a critical or a warning message. These are just different severities that can be used to indicate how serious a log message is. It might even be as simple as a debug message. And you can tune the Syslog daemon to log messages at or below certain facilities and severities. So let's see some examples of that. On our CentOS system, the first thing we'll do is look in the process table for Syslog. We can see /sbin/rsyslog-d running, and that's just its command line. So we know there's a Syslog service running. We can send a message. We can say logger -p info, so we're sending it at info level severity. Hello, Syslog. And so let's see if we can find out where that log message went to. We know from the last sublesson that Syslog is sending to var log messages. So let's use the tail -1 to see if that was the last log message sent. And indeed it was. Hello, Syslog. So the logger command just wrote to var log messages on our behalf. It sent to Syslog, rsyslog actually, which wrote for us. So what configures rsyslog? How does rsyslog know what to do with that file? Let's look at the rsyslog configuration file, which is /etc/rsyslog.conf. So there's a whole lot of details in here, and it kind of looks like code. Most of this you don't really need to edit very much. But let's look at some of the most basics, and that's under rules here. Anything with a hash mark, like just as convention, is a comment, so you can safely ignore it. So this is the first line without a comment. This is our severity, and this is our facility, separated by a dot. So what this line is saying is any message from any facility that's at info level, as well as, the semicolon is just saying, is appending, as well as no mail, no auth, and no cron messages. So it's saying from any source except mail, auth, and cron, send the output to var log messages. For auth messages of any severity at all, put them in secure, which makes sense. You would want anything authentication and authorization related sent to the secure file. Mail messages, in this case mail.star, all the mail messages go to varlog mail log. Cron messages go to varlog cron. So you can see that rsyslog is configured to sort logs in a predestined, pre-configured way. We'll just make a custom entry here. So let's look at etc/rsyslog.conf. We'll edit it with vi. And I've got here at the end, I've added local3.info. and we have var log live lesson. So this is saying any message sent from the facility local 3, just this is a custom facility that you can use, with the info severity, put it in this custom live lesson instead. So let's see how can we use this. How can we get a log message from our syslog into live lesson? I can quit out of this, and I can say logger minus p. This is how I can specify a facility and a severity, and I can say greetings. And so now if we looked at the var log messages, we see greetings. And if we look at var log live lesson, we also see greetings. So why do we see it in 2 places? Let's take another look. So I'm back at the etc rsyslog.conf. Remember that this line is saying anything at info level severity or above send to varlog messages. That would include local3.info, which I sent before. And we also see it in varlog live lesson because I specified anything sent specifically from local3.info, send it to varlog live lesson. So this is additive. That's what this means is when our syslog starts, it reads all of the rules in this file and it applies anything that it sees. We didn't specifically exclude it, so it logged it as we would expect. We can also send messages to a remote server, which you might need to do, for instance, for security purposes. Imagine that there's a system daemon that's been hacked, and it's sending log messages that give some evidence that it might have been hacked. You wouldn't really want that to be sent to the local system because the hacker could then just cover his own tracks by removing the log files. So instead, you configure your syslogger to send its log messages to a remote server that the hacker may not have hacked. And then you have some evidence and an audit trail as to what might have happened. So in order to do that, you can use a specific syntax. Let's look at rsyslog.conf again. Here's my local3.info line. I could say something like, send anything at local3.info to @ 192.168.10.10, say. That would send over TCP any messages sent to this facility and this severity, local3.info, over TCP to this IP address. Or if I wanted it to be UDP, which is the normal protocol for syslog, I would just use one @ sign. So that's a really quick overview of our syslog and managing its configuration file.